The airstrip was silent, too silent. A sleek private jet sat motionless under the blazing afternoon sun, its silver body gleaming like a trophy, except this trophy was broken. A young mechanic stood in front of it, wiping sweat and grease off his forehead with the back of his sleeve. His boots were worn, his jumpsuit faded, but his eyes burned with focus. Across from him stood a man in a tailored suit. His gold watch glittered, his cologne lingered even in the open air. He smirked, arms crossed, surrounded by assistants holding clipboards and phones. "Do you even know what you're doing?" the rich man said, his tone dripping with arrogance. "You look like you can barely afford lunch. And you think you can touch my jet?" The assistants chuckled, whispering under their breath. But the mechanic didn't. He just tightened his gloves, crouched under the wing, and muttered, "Watch me." His name was Daniel Reyes. 26 years old. Raised in a small town where fixing broken engines wasn't just work, it was survival. His father had been a truck driver, gone most of the year. His mother cleaned houses. Daniel grew up in a garage that smelled of oil and dust, learning to repair tractors and motorcycles when other kids were still playing with toy cars. Now, at 26, he wore a jumpsuit with stains that no amount of washing could remove. His boots were scuffed, his nails permanently darkened by grease. His eyes, sharp, steady, unflinching, revealed something more. A man who knew his worth, even if the world didn't. The man who mocked him was Victor Hale. Billionaire investor. Owner of the jet. And someone who lived for power plays. Victor arrived at the airstrip in a convoy of black SUVs, flanked by assistants, photographers, and yes men. His Italian suit was flawless, his shoes polished like mirrors. His hair slicked back, his smile sharp as a knife. People didn't speak to Victor. They bowed to him. Everyone, except Daniel. Victor paced impatiently, his voice booming. "This jet costs more than your entire life. One mistake and you'll never work again. Do you understand that, boy?" Daniel crouched beneath the wing, running his hands along the panels, checking bolts, tracing the hydraulic lines. He didn't answer immediately. "Hey!" Victor snapped. "I asked you a question." Daniel finally stood, meeting his eyes. His voice was calm, almost too calm. "I understand. That's why I won't make a mistake." The assistants gasped. No one spoke to Victor like that. Victor's jaw twitched. "We'll see." For hours, Daniel worked. He slid under the fuselage, tightening valves. He checked the landing gear hydraulics, replaced worn seals, adjusted fuel injectors. Sweat dripped down his neck. His muscles ached. His tools clinked against metal as he worked in silence, the only sound on the airstrip aside from Victor's mocking comments. Behind him, whispers spread. "Why hire him? He looks like a janitor. Probably the cheapest mechanic they could find. He'll ruin the whole system." Daniel ignored them. But inside, the words cut deep. He had always been underestimated. Too poor. Too ordinary. And now, standing against a billionaire, he was being humiliated again. Victor leaned closer, smirking. "You fail here, boy, and I'll make sure you never work in the city again." Daniel's hand stilled for a moment. He looked up at Victor, his gaze like steel. "Then I guess I don't have the option of failing." The sun dipped lower. The airstrip lights flickered on. Daniel tightened the final bolt and stepped back. His heart pounded. His gloves were soaked in oil. He climbed the ladder, slid into the cockpit, and adjusted the controls. His fingers moved with precision, flipping switches, aligning systems. For a breathless moment, nothing happened. Victor smirked, already pulling out his phone. "Pathetic. You wasted my time." Then, the engines roared to life. A thunderous sound shook the airstrip as the jet hummed with power, its turbines glowing in the night. The assistants gasped, phones raised to record. Victor's smug smile faltered, replaced by shock. Daniel climbed down, wiping his hands with a rag. "Your jet is fixed. Safe to fly." The airstrip went silent. Victor opened his mouth, searching for words, but before he could speak, another voice rang out. From the edge of the runway, a tall man in uniform approached. His coat bore the insignia of the airline authority. His presence alone commanded respect. It was Director Samuel Crawford, head of the Regional Aviation Board. Unknown to Victor, he had been watching quietly the whole time. He stepped forward, shaking Daniel's hand firmly. "Young man, I've been in aviation for 30 years, and I've never seen someone work under that kind of pressure with so much precision. How would you like a contract maintaining our fleet?" The assistants froze. The fleet, dozens of aircraft. Millions of dollars in work. A life-changing offer. Victor stammered, his face red. "He's just a mechanic." But the director cut him off. "No. He's an expert. And frankly, Mr. Hale, you should thank him. He just saved your life." The spotlight had shifted. Victor, once towering and arrogant, now looked small in front of the very man he tried to humiliate. Daniel, still holding the rag, looked Victor in the eye. "I don't need your thanks. The engines speak for themselves." The assistants who once laughed now stared with respect. Some even looked embarrassed for having mocked him. Victor's lips tightened. He adjusted his gold watch, avoiding eye contact. For the first time, the billionaire had no comeback. Daniel turned to the director, his voice steady. "I'll take the contract, sir. Not for the money, but because planes deserve better care than arrogance provides." The director smiled, clapping him on the back. "You've earned it." That night, Daniel walked off the airstrip not as a poor, underestimated mechanic, but as the man who turned humiliation into victory. The boy who grew up fixing tractors in a dusty garage had just secured a future brighter than he ever imagined. And Victor? He boarded his jet, silent, his pride more dented than any machine Daniel had ever fixed. Never underestimate someone because of their clothes, their background, or the size of their paycheck. Wealth can buy you comfort, but it cannot buy you character. Respect is not commanded by arrogance, it is earned through skill, patience, and integrity. Because in the end, the world doesn't remember the ones who mock. It remembers the ones who prove them wrong. Final closing line. Arrogance fades. True character lasts forever.